and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. Today's video is sponsored by our Amazon affiliate link, which you'll see in the description below. You will also see in the description below links to any videos that I mention in today's video. So today, as you can see, I have a bunch of different pots here. I'm going to talk to you about the differences in various types of pots and then also how they are, which ones are good for houseplants and what reasons, and some of the pros and cons of the various types of pots. So first I'm going to go through the various types of pots. So one of the main ones that you will hear about, and it's one of the common, very common, is glazed ceramic. So this has been high-fired glazed, high-fired in a kiln. I think they do anywhere from 2 to 3 times generally, and in terms of high firing, and then they glaze them at a certain point and then refire. So now this glaze, what happens with this glaze, and here's another one. And also a nice thing about these two is they're very pretty. They're shiny, they're pretty, they've got deep, rich, often deep, rich colors, very, very, very attractive for your houseplants. So what happens also when they glaze these pots is they allow for the moisture to stay inside the pot. So when you plant, this area all around is going to keep moisture in, and that's of significance because when you get to something as a terracotta that has not been glazed, this is extremely porous. So what happens with this is the pot will release moisture all the way around, from all the way everywhere. So it's releasing moisture from the bottom, it's releasing moisture from the sides and the top where the soil is. That's all the moisture is released at that point. So a terracotta pot is going to need any plant in a terracotta pot is going to need frequent watering, unless you're growing in it something like succulents, which like to get dry. So if you're going to be using any just plain terracotta pots for your houseplants, keep in mind you're going to need to water them more frequently. Now with glazed ceramic, it's going to be less time, actually more time before you need to water, because it's going to keep in all the moisture. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Now, another type is metal. So you see a metal, you can also plant in metal, it's fine. However, when you do plant in metal, you want to, in any of these types of pots, you need to make sure that they have drainage holes. So in this metal one, I did put drainage holes so that what I had planted in here prior and was able to drain. This one does not have drainage holes, so if I'm going to plant in this, I need to make holes. The same goes for any of the ceramic pots. You need to make sure they have holes, and all of these guys here do have holes. However, this one does not have holes, and so in that case, you can see I have marbles in here. Now, what I will use this for is I will use this to hold a plant that is in another pot, but I am not going to use to plant in it. So the marbles here are to keep the water underneath the plant when I water the plant that's in here, so that it doesn't sit in water. So what I'll probably do, since this is a really pretty pot, and honestly I didn't notice it didn't have drainage holes till I got home, but I will be using it with a plant in a plastic pot and putting it inside here. And so I will be watering that plant in the sink and then setting it in here. So if there's a little dribble that goes in there, these marbles will make sure that the plant is not sitting in moisture. So be very careful with any of these. They call them catch pots, which is fine, but be careful just that the plants are not sitting in water within them. Okay, now plastic I haven't mentioned yet. So this is plastic, and the cool thing about plastic, besides the fact that it is the most water retentive and it's nice and lightweight, it's easy to make holes, but even better, they make, as you can see, a lot of really nice plastic pots nowadays that actually kind of get on first glance, give the look of a ceramic pot. and you know this isn't a ceramic pot because it's much lighter weight, and it's much easier to make holes in plastic pots. Now, as you can imagine, I'm sure someone somewhere could make a nice holes in this with a certain sort of some sort of a tool, but I don't have that, even if it was possible, and I wouldn't want to chance it with a ceramic. Ceramic also, pottery is much more expensive than any of the other types too, so it's not something you really want to go and break. So whereas plastic is the cheapest, so you can easily make holes, and it's much lighter weight. So especially for when you have a big floor plant that you want to be able to move around a little bit, maybe you want to take it out in the rain, maybe you want to take it into the shower for a shower, then the plastic is much better for that. And it also retains moisture really well. So anything you have planted in your plastic pots is not going to need to be watered for much longer period of time than any of these others. Now, another thing to keep in mind is you want to, with all of these pots, you want to be able to make sure that you want drainage holes, but you want to be able to cover the drainage holes. Make sure to cover the drainage holes so that so that the soil stays in. Because what will happen in any of these, now some of these holes are smaller than others, but especially the big holes in the ceramic pots, what happens is the soil, every time you water, tends to rinse through. So after a period of time, you're going to have the soil in the pot lower and lower, and as I have in another video, when it gets too low, that can cause pests and diseases to come in. So what I like to do, you can use screen. I also like to do drywall tape. I saw this sitting around several years ago and thought that would make really good screen. So I will use the drywall tape. I will cut a piece, and then because it has a little bit bigger hole than a lot of screen, I will fold it kind of at a point where each of the squares cross, and then put it at the bottom of the pot. And as you can see, it does a really good job of keeping drainage. That it will promote drainage. However, it will keep soil in as it does that. So that's a very handy thing to keep in mind as well. Now, one last thing about plastic, which I prefer, which is preferable over these other types of pots, and that is that when you water, you can squeeze the plant pot, especially in something good to do when the plant has been in the same pot for a while, because what happens is, and I have another video on this, but the soil creates fissures where the water will flow through. So by doing this, when you water, you break that up and you make sure that all the roots in the soil get the water. So obviously you can't really do that with the other types. So that's another handy thing. So it will just depend in terms of choosing your type of pot, the kind of look you want. Maybe you have a plant that has a very lime green leaves that would go really nice with this pot, that sort of thing. In terms of feng shui for indoors, there's certain types of materials you want in certain areas of your home. So metal, you may want metal for some plants in one part of your home, etc. And also, like I said, you can use really pretty catch pots. Just put something, I can't fit this one in here, but plastic or something else within it when you do that. So that gives you some ideas as you're choosing which pots to use. And in terms of costs, the plastic and regular terracotta cheapest, and then probably next up would be a metal, and metal aren't as easy to find, and then the most expensive would be glazed ceramic. So that gives you a good idea. So thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see, and remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video.